What if I told you there's a British Army unit that fights like special forces, but officially isn't one? A unit so secretive they're called the Ghost Platoon, slipping behind enemy lines, unseen, gathering intel, and striking before anyone even knows they're there. They jump from the highest skies, land in the deadliest places, and survive alone for days where most soldiers wouldn't last hours. And in Afghanistan, they once turned a 6-day mission into a 52-day fight for survival against wave after wave of Taliban forces. This is the story of the Pathfinders, the men who are always first in. The Pathfinders aren't just another unit in the British Army. Their motto says it all: first in. They move deep behind enemy lines before the main force even arrives, performing advanced reconnaissance, marking drop zones, helicopter landing sites, and gathering vital intelligence. But here's the catch. Unlike regular infantry, Pathfinders usually operate in tiny teams of just 4 to 6 men. That means no backup, no heavy support, just skill, stealth, and trust in each other. They're trained to be invisible, often surviving for days without anyone even realizing they're there. It's not hard to see why one of their nicknames is the Ghost Platoon. Silent, unseen, and always one step ahead of the enemy. And while their primary role is reconnaissance, they've been known to work closely with the SAS, proving they're far more than just scouts. Operating as a Pathfinder isn't just about sneaking around and gathering intel, it's about mastering some of the most dangerous techniques in modern warfare. Take their parachute training, for example. Pathfinders use halo jumps, high altitude, low opening. They leap from aircraft at extreme heights, free-falling undetected through radar, and only pulling their parachutes seconds before hitting the ground. It's one of the most difficult and risky jump as any soldier can attempt, and for Pathfinders, it's just another day on the job. And when they land, they don't just disappear for a few hours. Small Pathfinder teams can operate alone for days deep behind enemy lines, carrying just the essentials, staying hidden, and sending back intelligence that could shape the outcome of an entire operation. Their skills aren't limited to one theater of war either. In 2001, Pathfinders worked alongside the SAS in Macedonia, mapping out the positions of insurgent forces. But that was only the beginning of their reputation, because a few years later, in Afghanistan, the Ghost Platoon would face a mission that would push them to the very edge of survival. In 2006, the Pathfinders were deployed to Afghanistan's Helmand province for what was supposed to be a short mission. Their task was simple on paper: establish intelligence in the town of Musakala and hold their position until reinforcements arrived. But what started as a routine assignment quickly spiraled into one of the most brutal tests of their existence. The Taliban descended on them in waves, armed with RPGs, mortars, and automatic rifles. The Pathfinders found themselves cut off, outnumbered, and surrounded inside a small compound. Supplies began to run dangerously low. Ammunition, water, food, everything was stretched thin. RAF Chinooks attempted resupply runs, but landing zones had to be secured in the middle of enemy fire. The Pathfinders had no choice but to expose themselves, guiding in the helicopters while the Taliban tried to blast them out of existence. Even when reinforcements attempted to reach the compound, their convoys were ambushed and forced to turn back. It looked like the Ghost Platoon was on their own, outgunned, undersupplied, and trapped in hostile territory. But if the Taliban thought the Pathfinders would break, they were dead wrong. Instead of waiting for Taliban to overrun them, the Pathfinders made a bold decision. They would take the fight back to the enemy. Using the little supplies they had left, they set up ambushes outside the compound. Every time the Taliban tried to move in closer, the Ghost Platoon struck with precision, unleashing sniper fire, machine guns, and coordinated assaults that shattered the enemy's confidence. What was meant to be a quick 6-day mission had now stretched into a brutal war of attrition. For 52 straight days, the Pathfinders held their ground, refusing to give an inch. Each attack they survived only added to their reputation. These weren't just scouts or intel gatherers. They were soldiers capable of going toe-to-toe with overwhelming numbers and still coming out on top. Relief finally came in the form of Danish forces and the Royal Irish Rangers. But by then, the Pathfinders had already proven their point. They weren't just first in. They were often the last one standing. Becoming a Pathfinder isn't something you can sign up for directly. There's no recruitment poster, no easy application. First, you have to already be part of the British Armed Forces, most often from the Parachute Regiment within 16 Air Assault Brigade. Only then can you even attempt the Pathfinder's infamous selection course, known simply as the cadre. The cadre is 6 weeks of punishment that strips away the unprepared and leaves only the elite. It begins with endurance, long-distance marches of 8 and 10 miles, followed by relentless navigation tests, and that's just the warm-up. By the end of the first 2 phases, candidates will have covered nearly 245 kilometers across some of the toughest terrain in the UK, from the Brecon Beacons to the Black Mountains. But distance alone doesn't make a Pathfinder. Candidates are then thrown into learning Pathfinder-specific skills, constructing hidden observation posts, conducting helicopter operations, and moving silently in small patrols. Each stage is designed to push both mind and body beyond normal limits. Then comes live-fire combat. Recruits drill EV, everything from 2-man contact scenarios to full platoon-level assaults, with real rounds flying and no margin for error. It's as close to battle as training can get. And finally, the ultimate test. A 7-day simulated mission in small teams, deep behind enemy lines. Candidates must operate, gather intel, and evade capture. But capture is inevitable, and when it happens, they're put through intense interrogation to test their resolve under pressure. Survive all of this, and you earn the Maroon Beret and the Pathfinder DZ Flash. But even then, the journey isn't over, because the next year is spent on probation, proving every day that you truly belong in the Ghost Platoon. Earning the Pathfinder Flash isn't the finish line, it's just the beginning. Even after surviving the cadre, every new Pathfinder spends a full year on probation, constantly tested to prove they can handle the demands of operating deep behind enemy lines. During this period, the training becomes even more specialized. Pathfinders learn advanced communications, mastering radios that keep them linked to aircraft and command, even when isolated miles inside hostile territory. They're trained on a wide range of weapons, from sniper rifles to heavy machine guns, so that each small team can adapt to any threat. Then come the parachute courses, Halo and Hey-Ho. These are the highest risk jumps in the military playbook. Halo, high altitude, low opening, gets them past enemy radar with seconds to spare. Hey-Ho, high altitude, high opening, allows them to glide silently for miles across enemy lines before touching down. They also train to insert and extract by helicopter, practice stealth patrols, and sharpen the survival skills that let them vanish in the most dangerous places on Earth. By the end of probation, every Pathfinder is more than just a reconnaissance soldier. They're a complete package, a ghost who can appear, strike, and disappear before the enemy even realizes what happened. For all their skill, sacrifice, and danger, you might expect the Pathfinders to be paid like special forces. But here's the shocking truth: they aren't. Because they're not officially classed as a special forces unit, Pathfinders are stuck on the standard Army pay scale, despite doing work that mirrors SAS-style missions. A newly promoted corporal can expect just over £31,000 a year. A sergeant will make around £37,000 to $41,000, while staff sergeants push closer to £42,000, $44,000. Respectable numbers, but when you compare them to the life or death stakes of their missions, it feels almost insulting. There is one bonus. Pathfinders receive something called high-altitude parachute pay, which adds an extra 1.47 per day for their risky Halo and Hey-Ho jumps. But let's be honest, that's pocket change compared to the danger they face every time they step out of a plane at 25,000 feet or walk into a town swarming with Taliban fighters. It's little wonder many believe the Pathfinders are one of the most undervalued and underpaid units in the entire British military. They carry the skills, the scars, and the reputation of special forces, without the official recognition that comes with it. The Pathfind. Ours aren't just a reconnaissance platoon. They're the eyes, ears, and often the blade of the British Army, operating in the shadows, first into danger, and usually the last ones out. From their brutal 52-day stand in Musakala to their relentless training and unforgiving selection, they've proven time and again that they're more than just scouts. They are fighters, survivors, and ghosts who shape the battlefield without ever being seen. Yet despite everything they do, they remain officially outside the world of special forces, underpaid and often overlooked. Which raises the question, should the Pathfinders finally be recognized for what they truly are? An elite fighting force every bit as capable as the most famous units in the world. One thing is certain, when the mission is dangerous, when the risks are highest, and when no one else can go first, the Pathfinders already have. So what do you think? Do these ghosts of the battlefield deserve special forces status? Or is their anonymity part of what makes them legendary? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.